Hello, everyone. This is Star Zenith 33, Laura Francesca, and I'm going to be talking about the astro weather. And so, in the astro weather, I am going to be talking about the most special day ever. And today is a special day because it is a 26th day that equates to an 8. 8 has to do with money. And the reason I'm doing this podcast is also because we have a old cycle that just closed up. Okay. It just wrapped up, and that is a Neptune in Pisces. And it's been with us for the past 15 years. It's about 14, 15 years. And why is today the most important day? Well, because Saturn completed a 15-year cycle with Neptune. And so it has prepared the collective, everyone, especially Pisces, okay? Pisces have been through the ringer with Saturn, but it was not about punishment, okay? It's been about preparation. It's been to see if it's real. You know, your situation is real, your career is real, your relationships are real, or is it just plain fantasy? So it has been testing all of us, okay, and preparing us what 2026 is going to bring. And so it was squaring Sagittarius. Neptune and Pisces was squaring Sagittarius. It was squaring Gemini, and it was opposing Virgo. Okay, so this was the mutable signs that it had effect on. And now we can take a breather. Okay. Now we can take a breather. Even though Neptune, you would think like, oh, it's not so bad like Saturn, and it's not. But when things are foggy, when things are misleading, when things are, especially in marketing and the media. I mean, let's talk about the media, right? It's been huge with Neptune and Pisces. And it's been about television, it's been about radio, it's been podcasters, it's been, if you really look back, I mean, especially in TikTok, I'm not surprised why they're doing so many changes right now with TikTok, with making it an American based app, right? Because there's been a lot of unfortunate situations in TikTok, okay? Live deaths, and live sacrifices that have happened. And it was time that, people became more protected in TikTok, and that us as content creators, we would feel more safe and our information will be protected, right? And because, there has been a lot of, yeah, I'm hearing the word Jewish. See, this is why I'm doing the podcast. I'm hearing the word something about Jewish is coming down. And so, it, when you look back at TikTok, even a lot of podcasters and content creators on TikTok, influencers, have passed on because they had a lot to say about celebrities, okay? It was kind of like a gossip column. They would make it like a gossip column or a gossip podcaster or a gossip, not really so much a podcaster, but I think it was more like a gossip influencer. And they would do influencers and they would do a bunch of videos and they would post them on there and they would say a lot of things. They would be the what is that word? In other words, they would uncover celebrities. It's not. They would be like kind of like just uncovering celebrities, illuminating light on celebrities of what they're doing and so forth. And so that's what's been happening. And later we find out that they're dead. You know, and so those are some of the things that. So with Neptune, you just don't know. It was a time of not knowing, and that's what Neptune is. It's foggy. If we're talking about fog, I mean, let's look at back on Kobe Bryant, right? When he passed away on the helicopter, and they said it was really foggy. Okay, early in the morning, and when the helicopter was going down, or when it was flying or something like that, it was really foggy, you couldn't see anything, and so that could have been one of the reasons, I guess, because the pilot or something, I don't know, but they said it was really, really foggy, okay? So think of that as Neptune, okay? And so there's no clarity, and when it's in Pisces, it's even more foggy, you know? It's in its home. Okay. And but in Aries, it's going to be so much different. Aries, there's clarity. Okay. Aries is ruled by Mars, it rules fire. Okay. So fire burns the fog, it burns the water. So there, when you burn the water, then there's this clarity you're able to see through, right? Because fire is clarity. Okay. And so it's gonna be so much better, but let's talk a little bit on the Neptune Pisces because if you really look back in the past, there has been a lot of sacrifices. Pisces rules the 12th house, and it has to do also with sacrifices, okay? Or just always being bed rest, always sleeping, always being a little bit too lazy, being in hospital stays, right? And crazy homes and all of that. And so and also giving up on life, I do have to say, because when we had a little peak on Neptune and Aries, there was a lot of miracles that were happening, okay? We had a little, like, I think it was like 2 or 3 months. I think it was like 2 months or something. In 2025, Aries jumped into Neptune just for that little sneak peek there, a little teaser there for all of us, and then it jumped off, and then Pisces went back in there in Neptune, right? But within that time when Neptune was in Aries, they say, I heard, I think it was in an X, that they were saying that there was this one guy, he said that his aunt was in coma for like a number of years, right? And there was nothing that could help her. She could not wake up. She was literally a vegetable. And he said, "Oh my God, I have a report to report. My aunt that's been in coma for so many years, she woke up, her eyes opened. She started moving her arms and her legs. They couldn't believe it. It was a miracle. Doctors had to rush to her bed and seeing what is going on." So there was a miracle that was being performed where during Neptune and Aries, and they finally got her out of coma and she lived. So, when Neptune is in Aries, it doesn't quit, it doesn't give up. When Neptune was in Pisces, it gave up, it was just like going with the flow and just kind of giving up on life. And that is what rules like the 12th house. If you notice a lot of Pisces, and I'm a Pisces, okay, I'm a triple Pisces, but the old Pisces of me used to always go with the flow and just say, okay, I guess, yeah, we'll just, yeah, I guess I'll just date you, like you keep bugging me like for there was this one guy that wanted to date me so bad, right? When I'm thinking of my past, and he just kept insisting, insisting, insisting. And then finally he said, "You know what? That's it. I'm not gonna like kiss your ass no more. Like, I'm tired of it," or something like that. And he said something like, "You're a bitch," or something. I think the minute he said that, I said, "Fine, I guess I'll date you." You know what I mean? It's just I didn't have time. You know what I mean? I was like on another, I wanted to make money. I had just became a longshoreman, and I was just motivated, with learning that I won the lottery to become a longshoreman, and I was so excited, and I didn't really wanna date. But he just kept insisting, insisting, and I just said, "Okay, fine," worst thing that I coulda did, you know? It's actually 11:11 right now. How funny. And so, that's what happened, and you know, we just didn't get along. Then, and I didn't know nothing about astrology. And, 5 years, and it was nothing but toxicity of just, you know, arguing back and forth and jealousy. And he was very immature, and he was a player, and he made me cry a lot. And oh, it was hell, you know? And so never again. So when I notice those patterns, I'm just like, "Nope, I'm not gonna deal with that." And so, that's why it's very important that you know astrology, you know what I mean? Because had I known, I probably would have been like, you know? And then it turns out that I find out that he had a Mars in Aquarius. So his Mars in Aquarius conjunct my Jupiter, which is luck in Aquarius. And so because of all this arguing with his Mars, on my Aquarius in Jupiter, which where I'm lucky and so forth, he was taking my luck away because he was always arguing, and he used to get jealous as well. So that just didn't work out. But it was the Pisces in me that would just like, oh, I guess. I feel bad for him, so I guess we'll go on a date or somewhere. But then I ended up liking him. So then it was like, but then I didn't know why I liked him. Like, why do I like you? It was just weird. So it's things like that. But with Neptune and Aries is we don't go with the flow. Okay. And I'm going to give an example today real quick about a situation that happened today without going too much into detail. Because, this podcast is not only about the astro weather, but it's also about storytelling. So it confirms the astrology of what's going on. Okay. So now that we have Neptune in Aries, now is about being a leader, about taking action and doing it fast. Okay. This is not about slow movement. It's not about Pisces or like, I'll just deal with it tomorrow. Or I'll just, no, it has to be done now. You know what I mean? You got to take action now. Or else nothing's gonna happen, and that's the truth. If when you think about Aries energy rules the first house, and Aries energy is fire. Okay, so you got to be fast, and you got to take action now in whatever situation that you're going through, right? And if not, somebody else is going to steal it from you. Okay, and that's just it is what it is. Okay, it's kind of, and it kind of reminds me of back when I was in network marketing. There was this one guy, right? He's an Aries. Well, I say he's an Aries because I think he's still alive. But anyway, he was young and everything. But with this whole COVID, you don't even know who's alive or who's not. And I lost contact with them. So anyway, at that time, he was in Aries. And he was a leader, very well known leader. And so he was really funny, and we all used to party as well and stuff. Latino guy. And he we went to this convention in Spanish, right? Because there was convention in English and Spanish, and it was about promoting. At that time, we were selling. I think it was like legal memberships, right? And so we were not paralegals or nothing like that, but we used to sell their membership, right? So we were all professionals and everything, selling memberships, legal for legal advice. And there was this Spanish convention, and so a lot of Hispanic people were there. They wanted to open their own business, and now that I think about it, Latino people are so ambitious, because they're always showing up at these conventions. They want to learn how to make money. They want to learn how to sell real estate. They want to know, like, they're open-minded, very Uranus. And they used to be so packed, okay, of Spanish people, like all the way out to the door. Like they wouldn't even, there was no space for them to be inside the hotel where they were having, the meeting, right? And so anyway, they said something about, okay, we're going to be giving $50, right? For somebody, it was kind of like a challenge, right? It said $50 for somebody that can just, pick up this sheet that I have or something like that. And it has a couple of contacts or something like that. And who's going to come and grab it? And he just went to this Aries just went, he beat everybody else. He just went over there and he grabbed it and he took it. And he already had plenty of money, but the point was that he was quick. He took action, and he didn't care about anything. Okay, he just went like Roadrunner, and he grabbed the sheet, and he didn't care if he was embarrassed or nothing. And then he just went and he went to go sit in there in the office, right, or where the seating was. And everybody looked at him like, whoa, wait a minute. No, he cheated, he needed to wait, and it was like, well, there's just no waiting, when the opportunity comes. And that was the example that when there's an opportunity and you wait too long, okay, somebody's going to come and rip it out of your hands. Somebody's going to come and take it away from you. And then you can't complain. It's like, you took too long. right? You needed to go faster and you needed to grab it, grab it by the horns, grab it by the, wherever it is, right? And just grab the opportunity. If you really want that, you got to go and grab it. You got to take action right away, right? So that's the moral of the story. With Aries, they go fast, they don't care, they're doers. They just go, 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 go. So that was just one of the examples there that was teaching us not to take too long when it comes to decisions. If there's money, especially if it's money involved, that was $50 for free. And I still remember that. I was like, dang, he was fast, like a marathon runner, just like, you know? And so, as Neptune enters Aries, we're going to start seeing a lot of opportunities are going to be coming up where we're being tested to take action. Okay. And today I was tested. Okay. Today, the first day of Neptune and Aries, also take a look at the signs that are around you of what is happening on the first day of Neptune and Aries, right? Because how you started is literally how it's going to be practically your whole year, right? Or for the next 14 years. So what Saturn has been teaching Pisces, it has been preparing us for 2026 and also preparing us for Neptune and Aries. And so, so what happened today, a situation happened today where I was expecting a product, right? That it was not an Amazon product. It was a USPS product. And for some reason, I got a text because I have an app and it tells me when it gets delivered inside my mailbox. And it said, "Hooray." And it had like a bunch of, it had a bunch of like confetti and everything. "Your package has arrived," right? It's inside your mailbox, right? And I was like, "Oh, okay." And then I went to my mailbox and there was nothing in there, right? And then I went to the USPS website and it said there that the product is inside we inserted it inside your mailbox. So I'm like, okay, there's nothing in there. I'm like, oh great. I do not want to start like this, So then what happened was that I said, you know what, I'm gonna take action. We got Neptune in Aries already. So I'm not gonna stall on this. Maybe there was miscommunication, maybe the mailman put it in the wrong box, which can happen. It has happened before. And and I had trouble once this happened, and I feel that they took the product, they didn't return it to me. It is what it is. Those are my neighbors. And so I just said, you know what? I'm not going to stall on this. I was a little bit upset because I'm like, I don't want to start it. Today's a 28 date. It has to do with money. And it was a product that has frequency of money, right? It's valuable. And so I wrote in a piece of paper with a black marker and I said, I'm waiting for this product. I think it got misrouted and it was inserted in somebody's mailbox. If you do find a product with this is my address, whatever, woo, and the number and everything, if you do find a product with my name and this number, just put it on top of the mailbox where all the mailbox are, and I'll pick it up. And then I said, "Thank you," right? And had I not done that letter, had I not communicated open communication and plastered it right on top where all the mailboxes are, where it's visible and they could see it, right? I probably would have not got the product, to tell you the truth. They would have kept it. And so, but today was a day of doing the right thing. Okay. Especially on an 8, okay? When it's an 8, that whatever you do is gonna come back to you. It's gonna bite you in the ass, okay? So, it was not about taking advantage of people, using mispower, using your power and using it in a misguided way where you're tricking people. It was not about that because it was gonna backfire as well. And so I didn't explain that in the letter. I just said, if you find the package, I would appreciate it if you could just put it on top of there and I'll pick it up myself, right? But the letter with the black marker and everything was very to the point, straight up, very Aries, right? Straight up to the point. This is my product. If you have it, just put it on top of there and I'll pick it up, right? Thank you, right? but it was very much, like, to the point, okay, very straight out, very clear. And then I don't know why I said, "I doubt it is gonna be there," you know? And I just prayed, I said, "God, please, if it's meant to be, then it'll be there. If not, then I'm gonna have to contact the USPS tomorrow, right? Then that's gonna delay me from my other work that I have to do. I don't wanna be chasing a product, right? That is not how I wanna start Neptune and Aries." And so you know, I think it was about almost 9 o'clock, and I was like, "Okay." So I go back to the mailbox, and then boom, there goes the product. It's right on top of there. So I grab it, I'm like, "Oh, thank God." And I took the letter that I plastered on there, and I threw it, and I trashed it. But it's because I put the letter there. Had I not put the letter, I probably would have not had it, you know? They probably would have kept it because my neighbors are not that generous like I am. I mean, I personally, if I see something like that doesn't belong to me, I'm gonna put it back, you know? And I'm gonna give it back because I believe not only am I a good person, but and a generous person, but I believe that I believe in karma, okay? And I believe that anything we do will come back, okay? It's still the year of F around and find out, okay? It's still the year of the snake. And things that we're doing right now, we're at the very last days, okay, of the year of the snake. So it's in the last days where we're being tested. And I don't want to end a year or start the year, but end, the snake year of, having karma, bad karma and bad things happening and stuff like that, you know? So I believe in karma. I believe that in any action that you take, you will get a reaction out of that. Okay. And this is why if I find a product and it belongs to you, I'm going to return it. I'm going to give it to you. You know what I mean? Why do I want it? Right. And so I don't know. There's just this thing with guilt as well. Like I don't like to keep products that do not belong to me. You know, it doesn't feel right, but other people, I guess they don't care. Right. And with Neptune and Aries, you need to understand that people are not going to care. Okay. They're only thinking about themselves. It's kind of like the old saying of finders keepers, losers weepers. You know what I mean? I found it. Oh, well, that's very Aries energy, right? And so, but I believe in karmic retribution. I believe in karma. And believe me, I've dealt a lot with karma. And so I do not want to deal with any more of that. So anyway, that's more on Neptune and Aries. But one of the things here for Saturn and Pisces that's been preparing us is letting us know that the lesson was completed. Okay, with Saturn and Pisces, we still got a couple more days. I think 2 more weeks, I believe, for it to close out in February. But it closed out Neptune. Okay, for 15 years. And so what it taught us was that the lesson is completed, especially for Pisces, okay? And the lesson was learned, and now the foundation is solid, okay? So now you're ready, okay? We're ready. And so for 15 years, the situations were unbalanced, okay? There was a lot of delayed gratification. For everybody, it was different. Okay. For me, it was in the 11th house. So it had to do with communities, it had to do with circles, groups, enemies. Okay. The 11th house does rule also open enemies. Why? Because you shine too much, because you're too much in the spotlight. It could be a podcaster. I think I read somewhere that I think Joe Rogan, he's an 11 life path. He's a podcaster. He's one of the greatest podcasters, right? Or the most famous podcasters that gets paid very well. But there is a lot of people that do try to be like Joe Rogan. And because he's a 11 life path, okay, he's known for, having high peaks, and elevating. And, he knows a lot of celebrities. He's actually a Leo too. So, and he does have his MC in Aquarius, I do have to say, his midheaven, like I do. And so, it's just interesting when you're in 11 life path or you're going to 11th house, because you shine so much, you're gonna have haters. You're gonna have enemies, You're gonna have people that are going to wanna steal your frequency. They're gonna wanna be you, right? And so you can't care, but you do gotta protect yourself, right? And so for me, with Neptune and Pisces, it was in the 11th house of communities and a lot of haters, a lot of celebrities, okay, were a lot of enemies. And I never understood that, but then I realized it's not just celebrities, but it was also spiritual people. And there was not support in that. There's a lot of competition in that as well because I was standing out too much, but I didn't care. I just kept going and going and going and going. And there was not a lot of support also, like, with the Christian base. It was some, I gotta say some, okay? Because we had, like, well, there was, like, TBN, right? Like, the Christian, what is it called? Broadcasting is from the television. That big group of Christianity where they did support. I don't know why the word Kenya is coming down. Weird. Something about Kenya. And so, they did support me. TBN would always watch what I have to say with the astro weather and stuff. But other people that were Christian, they didn't, especially family members and stuff like that are very, like, deep in Christian, they didn't support, the astrology, and that's fine. You know what I mean? They didn't have to, right? I know that for me personally, before I started doing the astro weather, I'm Christian, okay? And I'm baptized as a Christian, water baptized. And before I started the astro weather, I've said it before that I pray to God, and I said, God, if this is for me, give it to me, and bless me with it. If not, I just ask for your blessing. And if it's not for me, take it away from me, right? And so I started growing and growing and growing and growing and growing more. And so I felt that God did want me to do this. And then I did hear for him to say, like, go for it, like, kill it. You know what I mean? In other words, like, it's something that you have to do, right? Because it's just what it is. It's just about interpreting the planets and preventing the Titanic to go down. See, the Titanic didn't know the glacier was there, right? And so if the Titanic knew the glacier was there and is about to hit, it would have made I'm not going to say a sharp turn because it was a gigantic boat, right? A gigantic ship. And it was heavy, so they couldn't make a really fast, sharp turn, right? And they needed time and so forth. Very Capricorn type of ship, very elegant and heavy. I hear it was very heavy, very, strong, and you just can't make sharp turns like that. You need time, you know? And to prepare, to avoid, and I always compare astrology with the Titanic. And I said, what astrology does, it will let you know if the glacier is there. It will prepare you of, okay, here, now we have Pluto and Aquarius, it left Capricorn. Now Aquarius has to do with technology. Now we got to prepare of how to learn how to become more intelligent, you know? It's no longer about, oh, because we're under this person, we're under their wings, or we're under this circle, or whatever it is. It's just entitlement, a lot of entitlement, and within circles, right? And now with Aquarius, it's more about you having to learn, okay, about technology, learning about ChatGPT, I mean, there's so many apps right now when it comes to AI, and a lot of them are fun apps, and you cannot be afraid. You just got to jump in, and it will help you to build a business, and you just got to be smarter. You got to learn how to read more books, learn from people on social media. You can learn from each other. Go on YouTube and learn some how-tos, how to do this, how to do that. That's what I do. Okay, when I was trying to upgrade my phone, it has little tips and tricks and stuff. And there was a lot of guys, technology gurus in YouTube, where they were saying, oh, change this setting, change this setting. This is for better picture. And that's what I did, So I learned a lot. I learned a lot from YouTube. And so These are things that you can do, and so we gotta prepare, so that's what astrology does, it prepares you from, "Here comes an asteroid, here comes this planet, be prepared for this," and God gave me the green light, and God said, "Do it, because you're doing it for a good purpose, you're not trying to hurt people, You're trying to prepare people." And another thing too, okay, for those Christians, when I talk about the aster whether you have a choice, right? You can open the Bible. So what I'm also doing is that I'm using the aster weather for those that are Christian and not helping them, but I'm inspiring them, right? I don't say go and open up your Bible, but sometimes I'll say, if I was you, I'd open up the Bible and just kind of pray about it. There's this, right now, this planet is hitting us hard right now. The solar flares are pretty high right now, and this and this. I would open the Bible. That's what I'm going to do, and I'll just say things like that, right? So it's up to you, with what you want to do with the information. You can open up your Bible, you can meditate, you can go to the gym, you can do whatever you want to do. But I think if I'm inspiring people to open up their Bible, I'm doing God's work, and it's not in a forceful way, it's not in an intimidating way, is in a way of like, hey, I'm going to do this. If you want to do that, you can do that as well, and for those that are Christian, right? And for those that are not, they can meditate, they can go for a walk, they can go to the gym, or just kind of like remain calm, And so we're all here supporting each other. And what I love about astrology is that it helps people to be grounded and not go haywire, right? And not believe everything that is being sent out in the media. I think it's going to kind of slow down, to tell you the truth, with Neptune and Aries, because when Neptune and Pisces, it was very hypey. It was very much the media, the news, TMZ, all of that. Is it gonna stop? No, I don't think, but it's not gonna be as strong as it was with Pisces, okay? With Aries, it's gonna be more about leadership, it's gonna be about independence. It is about not listening to what people are saying, but doing what you feel is right for you and your business and your relationship and your family, right? Is making your own decisions. Observe people. That's what I do, because I don't take people's advice. I I do observe and I do learn from other people, of course, that have results, that are professional and so forth, but that have gone through it and have results, right? But I don't listen to everybody else, but I do observe first. And if I'm not feeling it, I'm like, no, you know? And I could tell because I'm highly intuitive, but you can't be listening to everything. So with Pisces, I was getting super influenced by everybody, from the media, from everything. I mean, the whole COVID, and how many people had to get injected like 3 times? 3 times? I mean, when we take the injection for the cold, right? The influenza shot. Well, I don't take it. I used to take it. I don't take it no more, but it's been a while, a long time since I haven't took it. But I don't believe in it. I actually, every time I used to take it, I used to get more sick. So that's personally for my body, though. So I don't know how it is for others. But, if we only took it once a year, it just didn't make sense that you were taking it 3 times. Like people were getting addicted, like, oh, I'm ready for my third one. It was just so ridiculous with Neptune and Pisces. And that has to do with drugs and alcoholism. There we go, right? And so, but with Aries, you can't fool Aries, okay? With Aries, it's going to be very independent. They're going to do their own thing. They're going to run their own ship. They're going to run their own business. And it's going to be so much cleared with clarity. And I'm just going to love it. So, some of the things also, with this closure between Neptune and Saturn in Pisces, is that Jupiter also stepped in. Jupiter is in Cancer. It stepped in and it said, you've passed all of Saturn tests. So now receive your rewards. Okay. So Jupiter was making a trine to Pisces in Saturn and Neptune. And it's bringing a harvest and a support in connecting with people. Okay. So connections, that are going to be entered because of this closure. And so it's not just going to be empty words, okay? So Jupiter is just reminding Pisces, especially Pisces, but the whole collective, that you don't have to earn your success. You don't have to prove your love, your money, your career, your relationships, your health, anything. You don't have to prove anything, okay? We're here to learn, to be just to receive, to learn how to receive, okay? To learn how to receive with the same generosity that we give. So, it is about receiving, it is about giving, and it is about receiving. And so now that this closure has happened, we've learned the lessons that we don't need to prove ourselves no more, because in Saturn is where you have to prove things, okay? And then Neptune is just about the connection of it, and Jupiter was about the expansion. So Jupiter jumped in there, okay, to add in the mix with this closure between Saturn and Neptune. And it's saying you don't have to prove anything no more. You know, you learn the lessons. You just have to be yourself, right? You have to be yourself, and that's what it's about, you know? So those are some of the things there with Neptune and Pisces that already left, by the way, okay? So right now it is, let me try to refresh here real quick. Let's see. It was in the 6th house earlier. You know, I haven't done the astro weather for a while, so I'm very new to these transits here. Not too new, but you know, asteroids are always changing around and so forth. So I'm trying to get it familiar here. Let me go where Aries is. Okay, so you can't miss it because it's at 0 degrees. It's so weird to look at Neptune where it's in Aries because it's been in Pisces for so long. And I'm like, where are you, Aries? And so Neptune in Aries right now is in the 5th house, okay? It's the 5th house of life there, and the motto there is I express, okay? So right now it's about expression, it is about sports, it's about gambling, the lottery, pleasures, it is about children, okay? It's also about social entertainment, okay? And so forth. And so it's a fun house. It's the fun house, okay? I think of a jumper for children, you know, when you jump in there and you have fun, right? Think of that, the 5th house, anywhere where you're taking a risk, okay? It also rules romance and love. So that's where Neptune is in Aries, but it's also about being expressive, okay? And it's conjuncting Saturn in Pisces, okay? So in the 5th house there at 28 degrees of ancestry, okay? So there could be this impact with ancestors, with families, with Saturn and Pisces, where it's probably protecting the Pisces, not probably, but it is protecting Pisces or protecting the oceans and the lakes and the beaches there, just in case, you know, because we've been hearing all these war things, you know, I'm not trying to honestly to get involved in none of that. You know, the whole ice thing and this, and hopefully it stops, you know, because it's getting ridiculous. And I think there is some sort of restraint on that because Saturn is conjuncting Neptune right now, and Neptune is in Aries, and we know Aries is ruled by Mars, which rules wars, okay? That's the only thing, but on the bright side, with Neptune in Aries, is about traveling. It is about purchasing vehicles. It is about athleticism, sports, excitement, all of that. Being a leader, being an entrepreneur. Maybe you haven't ran a business and you're going to do it for the first time. It's a really great time to take a jump, take a leap with the 5th house. Okay. So it's a good thing there. And there's some stability because it's conjuncting Saturn and Pisces. Okay. So that's where we have it right now in the 5th house. Some of the new things, let me look at. I believe Pallas turned into Pisces. Let me, let's see. Where are you, Pisces? Oh, here you go. Yes, it just turned in. So Pallas, which is this asteroid of strategy, okay? the goddess Pallas Athena, she was in Aquarius and now she's in Pisces, okay? So when she was in Aquarius, it was about strategy, it was technology, it was all of that. But now that it's in Pisces, there's this strategy around the beach, around the ocean, around the waves. It could be a more spiritual strategy. So this is great for astrologers, okay? It's great for astrologers, astrocartographers, that do predictions with business, okay? It could be mainly in business because think of Pallas Athena like a lawyer. Okay. You hire a lawyer or an attorney to strategize a situation, maybe a business, maybe you have a question about a business and you got to contact a lawyer and they can tell you on the fine print, okay, this is what it means and this and this. It could be something like that, but because it's in the sign of Pisces, it has to do with spirituality. So I do see a lot of spiritual strategists, okay, especially with finance and so forth, that are going to do really well. Okay, because it just jumped in there, okay? It was in Aquarius. Now it has to do with spirituality, okay? So that I feel that's gonna blow up there. There is gonna be a lot of astrologers gonna be in demand, okay? Especially that deal with finance, they are going to be in demand. I do have to say also the asteroid of banks, it just jumped into Pisces. It was also in Aquarius. Now, which is good that it jumped into Pisces because when it was in Aquarius, there was a lot of technology problems, okay, with computers, with delays, with anything with technology. And now that it's in Pisces, it's more a spiritual. This is a good thing for spiritual people, manifesting money. But when it comes to banks, it has to do with loans as well. It has to do with savings and checking and where you bank, right? Can you trust your banker and so forth? And in Pisces, it could be, Christian based, it could be Jewish, especially Jewish. I think they run all the banks, to tell you the truth. So, Pisces has to do with religion. It has to do any type of religion, like Judaism, Catholicism, Christianity, all of that. And, you know, I don't know much about Allah or any Islam, if they might be like, if it falls into the whole Pisces thing, but it could be. So, we want to include all of them, right? And when it comes to Pisces, when it comes to spirituality, any spiritual, also Buddhism, you know, and so forth. I don't know. I'm hearing Gen Z, something about Gen Z is coming through. So that is where we have it at of 6 degrees of work, okay, of your environment, of health. Okay, that is where banks is. Okay. So there could be something about healthy banking. It could be something about a lot of people that work really hard or it could be also of people that are in the environment that are doing service with the environment and so forth. But it does have to do with neighbors. It does have to do with colleagues at your work, maybe people that you have to, cut a paycheck for or something like that. But 6 degrees is the degree of Virgo. Okay. So that has to do with community, it has to do with working, it has to do with being of service. And that's where banks is, okay? And also health, okay? Health and wellness. Maybe there's going to be a whole lot more. When we talk about banks, also, it's not just your bank, okay? It also has to do with money, And because it's in the 6th degree, there could be more health, maybe health workers, okay, that are going to get paid more. And I am a health care worker, okay? I'm part-time. And we are getting a raise, so there we go. We are getting a raise this year, just a dollar more, but it could be something like that, something to do with banks, okay? And you'll notice maybe a little raise on there if you're working the healthcare worker, maybe if you're a nurse, there's gonna be more demand there with money, okay? Or maybe more deposits in your bank account or something to do with that, okay? Especially if you work in the medical field or if you're a police or and I heard something that they're adding more police, okay? I think to the city of Los Angeles, and I think here in San Pedro, I'm not too sure, something like that. Where there I think I don't know how many cops there were, but they said they had funding for police, right? That they were gonna start having this big funding for police. So there could be that too. 6 degrees, that's Virgo, right? But it's in the sign of Pisces, okay? So that's where Banks is in the sign of Pisces. So it has to do with spirituality, okay? So I'm just trying to, I guess that is it for now. I do have to say, Mars and Pluto right now, whoa, it's at 3 exact degrees, okay? Mars and Pluto in Aquarius right now is at 3 degrees of communication and it's perfecting at 3 degrees. So they're both at 3 degrees, okay? Mars in Aquarius, Pluto in Aquarius. And let me see what house it's in. It is in the fourth house of real estate. Okay, so interesting because, I was talking about my product and stuff. I'm glad I didn't get into a tittle fight with my neighbors. Or maybe I was just like, you have to be blunt like that, you know what I mean? And have that Martian air energy of like, umph, you know? Because it's in the fourth house of real estate. It's in the fourth house where Mars is, okay, and Pluto. So if there is some kind of argument, you do have to be grounded though, okay? Because if you're too aggressive, you could end something, okay? So just watch out for that. Something in your home or in your environment or with your neighbors, okay? So that's why there does need to be open communication and clarity because it can be misinterpreted into another situation and it Pluto's there, okay? So but for me personally, I had an open communication with them as far as the letter goes, and, you know, they they put it there, and so and that ended that situation. So, and speaking of that, I just got a message from the company because I also had messaged them where I said, "You know what? I didn't receive it," because they send me also a message, "Oh, your package is there." I'm like, I never got it, you know? So I also let them know of what was going on. But I did send them another message saying I got disregard, the message just, I already got the product. So, but I was being proactive, in all of that. So, to me now it's like, okay, now I don't have to worry about it, right? I took care of it. Everything happened good with my neighbors, and so forth. So I didn't have to worry about that. So that's over. I don't have to deal with that no more, or even worry about it or chase a product or where is it at or trying to get a refund and all that. So now, it's like, okay, that's done. You know what I mean? Don't worry about it no more. That's it. Like, we took care of it. So it could be something like that, something around your community or with your neighbors or your home or something like that. So we do have to be grounded, okay, with this energy and just be smart, be intelligent in how you communicate when it comes to resolving a problem. So anyway, I'm gonna end it here because I'm already about an hour. Whoa. And I just talked about some of the things that are important to talk about. Tomorrow I will be doing, or the next 2 days, I'll be doing another podcast on the astro weather. And I just opened a Spanish channel. So I'm going to be doing some podcasting also there in the Spanish channel, the Astro Clima, because I hear they really love it there. So anyway, I hope you guys are having a really great night, and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye.